Hi, this is Brandi-lea, and thank you for joining me for the very first ever Art and Alchemy video blog post. I'm here today in the absolutely stunning Central Park, which is just covered with like autumn leaves all over the ground. It's gold and red, and it's beautiful here. And what I want to talk about today has to do with cycles and with nature and cycles of the seasons and our inner cycles. First, I just want to give you a little context as to why I'm doing these video blog posts, what this work is about. It's a platform for me to share tools that I'm working with in my own life using astrology and using yoga, and then also really learning to teach from my own direct experiences. So not just regurgitating something theoretical to you, but kind of just giving you like, oh, okay, this is all the information that I'm kind of living in my sphere, and how does it actually translate into my day-to-day practical life that I'm actually living? And how can we have a human conversation about that that's not just like, this is jargon, right? But like figuring out how does it translate? And I want to do that so that I can cultivate that within myself. And then I also want to do that because I want it to be a mirror for you to start to do the same. Because ultimately, within each of us, there is an inner teacher that's our life and our own voice, right? That far surpasses anything that we're going to take in. We all have a little piece of that truth. And so you have to start to listen to what's inside of you. So one of the reasons that we're doing this on today, which is October the 27th, is because this is the full moon in Taurus. It's the harvest moon. And I just wanted to share what my own direct experience is of that kind of coming to, like what my lesson is that I'm learning. I think we each get something that's slightly different, but has some, universal tones to it, right? Elements. So for me, it's really a very simple lesson about living in alignment with cycles, with natural cycles, with the cycle of the seasons, and then my own inner cycle. Now, full moons for me really, really represent this in a big way, because my own menstruation cycle matches the full moon. Okay, sorry guys if we're going into this whole other thing, but we all have these cycles that are intrinsic to our bodies and our natural rhythms, male or female. We just have it in a way that is a little bit more apparent to us as women. There's an amazing author named Miranda Gray who talks about this. She wrote this book called Red Moon. And she compares the woman's menstruation cycle each month to going through the 4 seasons each month. So as I'm sitting here in all of the autumn leaves, I'm kind of thinking and reflecting on that. So in my own cycle with this full moon and with my own full moon cycle, I am in a winter phase, right? So if you think about what does winter feel like, what is your energy level like in the winter? What do you want to do, right? You want to curl up, you want to go in. It's a very yin, returning back to the center kind of energy. There's a lot of extra care that's needed, extra rest. You don't want to expand and take on new projects then. But one of the reasons I want to talk about this today is because regardless of me knowing that, I don't seem to ever really concretely apply it to my life. So what happens is I live in a city that runs at a certain pace, and I have a lot of programming and conditioning that goes at a certain pace. So I tend to take things on and just layer them on regardless of what those ebbs and flows of my natural cycle are. And then I hit a week like this week where suddenly my body doesn't respond to that. The way that I normally can take in information and digest it, the way that I can normally communicate it, the things I can normally expect my energy to kind of show up to do isn't there. And it's just not supposed to be, right? So what would happen if instead I start really, really living in alignment with the cycle of my energy, of my life? Okay? And I know this sounds super simple and like, yeah, I get that. That's just something that's common sense, right? But truly, like, it would be profound if we started to do that. Like, think about the way that your self-image would change if you really knew, like, on these weeks, I do these things really, really well. I can expect to give, like, this level of energy. I can expect to have this kind of expansive output. But I know on these other weeks, I need to return back to the center. I'm going to need more rest. I need to say no to more things. I need to not make plans that are going to, you know, tax me. But really starting to honor and live in alignment with that. It's the same thing with the seasons, right? I mean, New York is such a good example of a city that, like, in the dead of winter, when there's snow and slush on the ground and it's raining and people's umbrellas are turning inside out, you're like running with all these bags on your back to the subway, okay? I mean, it's crazy. Like, we're so out of alignment with the way that nature and cycles kind of just naturally exist within us and outside of us as well, that we just expect ourselves to be like little machines. We're not honoring in any way our humanity or our wisdom or our inner ourself. We're not honoring our lives. That's basically it. We're not honoring our lives. And so when I make plans that overstretch myself during a period of time that I'm not paying attention to, because it's there every month, I should know that. Do you know? Not to beat myself up and say should, but like, that's something to cultivate, is that inner knowing, that actual inner knowledge of where I show up, what my energy is like, what my needs are. And so this moon, which is in Taurus, is an absolutely perfect time to reflect on that, because it is in Taurus. It's in a feminine sign. It's energy returning back to the center. It's yin energy, and it's all about reflection and sustainability, becoming self-sustainable. What do I need? What are my actual needs and values that I need to cultivate in order to sustain my journey? And when I say sustain my journey, what I mean by that is, for me, I'm trying to start a business. I'm trying to create communication and have a blog, right? I'm trying to kind of grow some creative and heartfelt endeavors, right? And that takes an amazing amount of energy. It's going to need an amazing amount of abundance to be able to keep sustaining and growing that over a long period of time. So I need to know how to distribute my energy throughout the different parts of my cycle, right, and the seasonal cycle, in order to really give myself the maximum opportunity to grow. Because it's not all about expansive yang outward energy. It can't be. You would burn yourself out. I mean, look at the out picturing. If I just step outside of this park a couple of 100 feet, I'm in the city, and there's this amazing mirror in front of me. I'm an out picturing of just expansive yang energy that does not have the necessary involution, the necessary balance, the necessarily returning. It's not balanced, okay? And we live our lives kind of in the mentality that created that. We created that. And we live within the principles of how we created that, in a way that we also don't give our lives the ability to have the proper cycles of ebbs and flows. So this energy, this Taurus energy, is about taking root in the endeavors that we have, and not in this warrior-like way, but like in a way that a tree has roots that grows deeply into the earth to absorb the sustenance that it needs. We look around us and we say, what are the resources that I need? And instead of thinking of going out to them, we start to draw them into ourselves. We are the source of our own abundance. We're creating this beautiful art piece that is our life, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. So taking this moment of real reflection and seeing how we can start to look inside, define our cycle more, and cultivate that. And then, we're marrying this in this beautiful moment in time right now that we're experiencing with the sun, the integration point in Scorpio, which is actually the polarity point of Taurus. In Scorpio is about finding empowerment, seeing the thing. So you draw in the resources that you need, right, in Taurus. So then in Scorpio, we use Scorpio to merge with that, to osmose, okay, to extract the essence of what we need to empower ourselves through it. So it's this perfect yin and yang. It's this perfect balanced cycle in that way. And when we become too full of that resource and it becomes too comfortable and too stagnant, then Scorpio also is the energy that provides the little stings, right? Which, you know, don't feel great in the moment often, but it's what lets us know that we need to evolve. We need to move on from something that's holding us back. Something that's become, instead of, you know, an empowering experience, it's become like a jail cell in a way. And we have tons of those things in our lives, tons of those kinds of energies around us. And it's also part of the natural cycle, just as though the leaves fall off the trees, to let go of those things, to shed them. So hopefully today this will spark some thoughts for you, some questions, and you know, maybe you can just use this tonight as a way to create your own special practice of reflection. You know, light a candle, maybe listen to this talk again, maybe make a list of things that you feel are really your own cycles, if you could start to articulate that for yourself. And then also make a list of like resources that you need in order to sustain this. You know, like I know I'm going to make one that says, figure out what week every month you're not going to, you know, extend your energy beyond what you can. This can be like my week of reflection and relaxation. And instead of feeling guilty about that or feeling like it's not enough, I can start to embrace that and use it as a practice of its own, you know? Great. So what we're going to do now, for those of you who just want to tune in and listen to this, thank you so much. For those of you who want to work with me a little bit in the yogic embodiment of it, we're going to actually do a little yoga practice, a little breathing, some asana. We're going to do a little moon salutation. So this is going to be on the next video. So it'll give you a moment to grab your yoga mat, maybe change your clothes, get some water, and just kind of switch gears and set up. Those of you who don't want to do that at this time, you can always come back to it. And I'm going to separate the videos so you can watch them independently. I just want to say thank you again so very much for spending your time and energy here, for listening to what I have to say. Hopefully it made some sense and is coherent enough. And hopefully it sparks some questions within you, and at least, you know, kind of sticks in there as a little pin in your hat as a dialogue. I'd love to hear more of what it does spark, or just your own thoughts about how this full moon is kind of coming up for you. So thank you so much. Until next time, enjoy the full moon. I'll see you soon.